Welcome to the Wavetable Synthesizer for the Nintendo DS. Stuff you'll need. To get started, you'll need a few things. You'll need to get 1. A Nintendo DS. 2. A flash card. And, if you've got one like mine, an SD card to go in it. 3. Optionally, the Nintendo DS Easy Piano add-on. I got my Easy Piano for about $60 on eBay, which I understand might not be worth it for everyone. So, I've made options for people who would like to make music with this application, but not buy the piano. More on that later. Headphones are suggested, as the DS's speakers can be rather quiet. There may also be a setup process for your flash card. I had to load these files onto mine in order for it to work. I can't remember where I got these from, so if you need help, go to the DSi Mode Hacking Discord, linked in the description. Now load the file wavetablesynth.nds onto your flash card, and create a folder called SFZ right next to it. You want to run the wavetablesynth.nds file, however is appropriate for your flash card. Once you're in, there are 3 main ways of producing a tone. First, you can press X. Secondly, you can export an SFZ file to use with other music software like FL Studio or other DAWs. Don't worry about this for now, we'll get to that later. Lastly, you can use the Easy Piano add-on. You can also use the D-pad to change the root of whatever you're playing. Modes and parameters. There are 5 modes that Wavetable Synth can be in. Tutorial, Wavetable Synth, Plucked String, Novelty, and FM, or frequency modulation. FM doesn't really work, unfortunately. Use the select button to cycle through the modes. In each of the modes, you will be able to change the timbre of the instrument through changing several parameters with the touchscreen. Use the L and R buttons to cycle through parameters. The Wavetable Synth mode. The most fleshed out mode is the Wavetable Synth. There are 6 parameters to this mode. Wavetable 1, Wavetable 2, Transition Shape, Transition Time, Transition Algorithm, and Transition Cycle Mode. Let's go through all of these. Wavetable 1. If all other parameters are left unchanged, this mode will do basic wavetable synthesis on whatever waveform you draw on the touchscreen for this parameter. You can draw a saw, a square, or even random nonsense. I like this W-shaped wave because its tone reminds me of a washing machine I once knew. Wavetable 2. Draw another waveform here. All of the rest of the parameters will determine how the instrument will transition from Wavetable 1 to Wavetable 2. Transition shape. We won't draw another waveform here. Instead, we'll draw how waveform 1 should transition into waveform 2. If we draw this, there will be a smooth, linear transition from waveform 1 to waveform 2. If we do this, it'll be the other way around. It'll go from waveform 2 to waveform 1. Let's do this for now, just for fun. Transition time. This slider will determine how long it takes to go through the transition shape. Here is 0 seconds. Here's all the way to 10 seconds. Let's put it here for now. Did you hear the bumpy shape from our transition? Boo-woo. We can make it take a very short, very long time. Whatever suits your fancy. Let's set it to here for now. Transition algorithm. What does halfway between two waves mean, anyway? What kind of transition is used? Morph will do a weighted average of both waves. This is what we've been hearing before. Swipe. We'll tack the first half of wave 1 onto the second half of wave 2, and swipe through the wave. It has a brighter, brassier tone. Combo, we'll use a combination of both. Let's keep it at morph for now. Lastly, there's the transition cycle type. With forward selected, when the right of the transition shape is reached, it stays at the right. This is what we've been hearing before. When loop is selected, when the right of the transition shape is reached, it loops back to the left of the transition shape. When ping pong is selected, when the right is reached, it starts going backwards to the left, then back to the right, and so on. What are some cool sounds you can make with this? Like I said before, I'm really fond of the washing machine. It sounds like this. You can also do a cool thing with the transition time to make a sort of delay effect. And using swipe, we can make a cool brassy sound. Let's set Wavetable 2 to something like this. Set the transition to something like this. Transition time about here. The mode to swipe. Plucked string. The plucked string algorithm is a simple algorithm that sounds surprisingly realistic. Go look it up, it's cool. There are 3 parameters in this mode: blend factor, burst type, and burst wavetable. Blend factor. If you slide the blend factor all the way to the right, you'll get the basic plucked string algorithm. Having the slider somewhere in the middle will make a snare-like tone. Having it all the way to the left makes a smoother tone. Burst type. The standard plucked string algorithm has a randomly filled wavetable at the start of each tone, but you can choose to use a custom waveform. The burst wavetable. If burst type is set to random, the instrument will ignore whatever is in this table. If it is set to wavetable, the instrument will use whatever wave you draw here as the initial wavetable for each tone. Cool patches for plucked string. The basic plucked string algorithm, blend factor to the right with a random burst, sounds awesome, especially in the bass. Moving the blend factor close to the left makes a cool rattling tone. Using a square wave burst and a right blend sounds kind of like an 808 deep into the bass. The novelty mode. The novelty mode is actually 3 modes in one: bubble sort, XOR, and excited string. It's a little hard to explain what's going on here because I just sort of tried things to see how they sounded. Bubble sort mode does bubble sort either on a wavetable that you provide or on a random wavetable, depending on which options you select. It bubble sorts the wavetable while it plays. XOR does something similar to bubble sort, except instead of bubble sorting as it plays, it XORs neighboring samples. Excited string does the plucked string algorithm, except it adds samples to it randomly, so that it never quite fizzles out entirely. Here's some cool patches for the novelty synth. If you set the slider to all the way over this way for bubble sort, you get a really cool tone in the bass. If you do it more near the middle, it sounds a bit stranger. Both bubble sort and XOR create very noisy sounds that are hard to use but still kind of fun. The excited string has a cool thing where if you set the slider about here and go up really high into the octaves, it kind of sounds like a violin playing a very thin, very high note. The tuning up here is awful though. FM mode. Like I said before, the FM mode doesn't really work. You can get some sine waves out of it, but that's about the only useful thing it can do. It's got a neat interface though. You have all these independent sliders. Here's how you route the operators. Here's the operator ratios, then back to the amplitudes. If we route 2 into 1, it will sound normal at first, but even turning it up just a little bit kind of sounds ugly. Maybe you'll find a use for this. SFC export. Like I said before, there's a way that you can export an SFC file of certain synth modes. Right now, it only works for the wavetable mode. You can make whatever patch you like. Then use the Konami code. Up, up, down, down, left, right, A, B, start. And now you'll see that it's exporting. The SFC file and all the associated samples will go into the SFC folder that you created earlier. You can find an SFC plugin for whatever DAW you use, then use the sound that you create with the wavetable mode in your DAW. The X button is also useful for sampling. If you create a patch in any of the modes, you can then press X to play a sample tone for as long as you wish. Then you can use the D-pad to move to the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. That way, if you have a sampler, you can use this instrument in your DAW just by recording the outputted sounds, without the need for the easy piano. And here's some music that I made, showcasing what this application can do. Enjoy.